Hola, hola, NextGen Collective. We're back with a special bonus episode of our Women's History Month series. I'm Suleidis, and I'm joining today with amazing Stephanie Nuesi. She's a financial analyst, content creator, and founder of MaxUp. Her impressive career has earned her recognition from top media outlets like LinkedIn, Fox News, ABC Telemundo, and Hola USA. She's also spoken at over 600 plus workshops and events Fortune 500 companies, organizations, and worldwide, and inspiring and empowering millions of young professionals. When Stephanie became available, we just couldn't pass up the opportunity to reflect on the next generation of Latinas with her and how we can involve more experienced Latinas in the process. Stephanie, thank you for joining us today and happy Monday. How are you doing today on this beautiful spring morning?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with everyone that's connecting to the live event. And I was very excited when you all invited me for this because I love speaking about my story and what it means to be a Latina and all these different topics that we're going to cover today. So really excited.
Thanks for being with us. Let's break the ice a little bit here. Since this is a bonus episode, I'm having a little fun with a quick fire round. So today we're doing a Latin food quick fire round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Tostones or maduros?
Tostones.
Okay, how about tostones versus yuca?
Tostones.
All right, you're a tostones lover. I love it. I love it. How about café con leche or iced coffee?
Café con leche.
What about café con leche or cortadito?
Cortadito.
Okay. Nice and clean. I love it. I love it. How about empanada or pastelito?
Empanada.
Okay. Arroz con pollos or picadillo?
Arroz con pollo.
Me too. My mom makes a great one. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty a little bit. Your company, MaxUp, specializes in helping college students and early career professionals land their dream jobs. What inspired you to start this venture, and what sets your services apart from your other career coaching programs?
I think what kind of inspired me to start MaxUp back in 2019 was that I was a college student back then, and I was facing a lot of different issues. I didn't know how to write a resume. I didn't know how to do a cover letter, and I was a first gen. So my parents didn't know how to do that. My parents didn't know how the economy worked in the U.S., how recruiting worked. I didn't have anyone to really guide me through how to really get a job, or I didn't even know I needed to get an internship before getting a job. That's kind of like the usual traditional path that college students do before they graduate. And no one told me this. And so imagine if I represented one out of millions of other college students who are also first gen, who are also Latino, who also come from non-traditional backgrounds that face the same difficulties and that didn't know or didn't have anyone to guide them through the process. And so I feel like it was my responsibility, right? As I learned through all the challenges and rejections, to teach others what I learned through my journey. And that's what inspired me to start MaxUp. We started in 2019, 2020, the pandemic happened, and they needed the help, right? I don't know if people remember 2020, thousands of college students got their offers rescinded when they worked for a year to wait for that offer to start, and they didn't have anything. And so I think that a lot of college students and early career professionals didn't have necessarily like the help, because a lot of career coaching companies that were already established were ready for more like senior and executive professionals. And you hear this often, right? Like, oh, like the CEO or the CFO or this person has a career coach. How about the college student? How about
Yeah.
the career professionals? I wanted to kind of like path the way for them to also have success.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we need that so much, and mentors and all the good stuff. So Stephanie, you've spoken at over 600 workshops and events. What are some of the key messages that you hope to convey to your audiences, particularly young Latinas? This is a Women's History Month event.
Absolutely. Some of the topics that I usually speak about have to do with how to own your identity at work. How do you own your identity everywhere you go? How do you not let your background become your liability and you use that as your asset? The thing is that a lot of us tend to hide who we are um, in any setting that we're in, because we think that our backgrounds are a bad thing, or because we think we're going to be discriminated. And if someone of if people are watching don't follow me yet on LinkedIn, I actually posted about this today. And I'll make this quick story. So I used to work as a table slash food server at a restaurant, right before I got my corporate job, or my first corporate job. And so a lot of people working in retail, they're cookers, that they have all these different, I guess, like non-corporate jobs. And sometimes they don't know how to align or put their brand, or how to really like sell themselves to see that they have the value for companies. And so a lot of the conference that I speak about, I talk about how can people really like settled on their brand, and who they are, and how they can really like perform and story tell who they are in the best possible way. And so all of that to say, there are a lot of different topics that can be brought in about like that big umbrella, right? But that's kind of
Mhm.
like biggest thing that I speak about.
So your content has reached millions of people at this point, on social media, everyone you've been featured. What advice do you have for others looking to build their personal brand and grow their online presence?
I guess the first thing I would say is that you have to know who is your audience. If you just start creating content for no one, chances are that you're not going to really like get to where you want to be. So
Mm.
before I even started creating content, I remember that I have specific audiences. I had early career professionals, college students, mid-career professionals, people who were from non-traditional backgrounds, people who went to non-traditional schools, first gens, immigrants, Latinos, people of color. So a lot of different audiences, but they all kind of share like similar stories. And so once I identify my audience, I was able to create content for my audience. And so and that has to do a lot with like this term in marketing too, where people create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. And the same thing happens with like when you want to create a brand, like you create a brand for no one, right? So what's going to happen is that no one will really like resonate or relate to what you're sharing. And so I think like once you identify who your audience is, then your message would just go. And then my number two tip, best advice I got, and I actually got this from Miri Rodriguez. I'm giving her a shout out. I love Miri.
Shout
Yeah,
out.
shout out to Miri. She works at Microsoft, and she's a powerful Latina from Venezuela. So Miri has a book called Brand Storytelling. And in her book, she talks a lot about different paradigms of how do you tell your story, and how do you become the best storyteller of your story. A lot of the times people think that creating content or just sharing your story, or whatever the case may be, has to do with only you sharing. And the truth of the matter is that I speak to people like how I'm speaking to you right now, how I'm having a FaceTime with a friend, how I'm telling someone like, you don't know what happened to me last week. So this. And so people forget about it, the vulnerability, and how to be personal when it comes to like creating that content and sharing your story. So brand storytelling and your own storytelling is like the biggest piece of advice I've gotten so far.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. As a marketing person myself, I definitely can identify with the whole message of you need to just tell your story as genuinely as possible. And you're doing the exact same thing right now. And we appreciate that. Genuinity is always very welcome. So bonus question here. You Now that you've spoken in many times, public speaking is one of those very hard to do things. Do you have any advice for people now that you've done it more than 1,000 times? What is the number one advice for public speaking?
Yes. So I guess my number one advice for public speaking is just do it. Here's And it's a famous motto out there, but
Yeah.
really do it, because once you put yourself out there the first time, then the second time or the third time, it's gonna be like so much better as you go, as you go, as you go. And so the more you do it, the better you become at it. It's just like it takes practice. I remember that I used to do a lot of public speaking in my own language, which is Spanish, and then when I was started learning English, it was really hard for me because I was afraid that people would not understand what I had to say. I was afraid that people would judge my accent. I had so many different thoughts on my head. Imposter syndrome kicked in, right? So I had to like step back a little bit and say, there is something and there's a message that I have to share that at least one person here needs to hear it. And when you think about it that way, you don't put your message for like the entire crowd and you think that I need to impress 100 people, but you say I need to impact one person out of this room today. And if you do that, your mission is accomplished. If more people come along, then great. And so that's like my, I guess, my little like mental exercise that I do every time I speak, which is one person from this crowd needs to, be impacted by what I'm going to say. And so it's the same thing that I'm doing right now with this event. If at least one person that's watching or that will watch it eventually gets impacted by this, I think like my mission is accomplished. And so the same thing is for public speaking. Try to do that. Focus on what you have to share, and like it's impossible to beat imposter syndrome or to beat like those negative thoughts that come through our head. Like they're always gonna come one way or another. But the best thing to do is like challenge channel your inner and outer energy. And this is a very interesting topic that I read from a tech talk. It's like your inner energy is like your own motivation, but then your outer energy is kind of like where do you channel energy from, right? So whether that's like reading a book or watching your favorite person or your favorite book, whatever the case may be, channel the good energy and use that for your speaking and anything else you're really doing.
100%, just do it. I feel the same way. I hear about doing this virtual series. I just had to do it because there, women all around are making history, and we just have to highlight them. And if I have to get on camera, I have to get on camera, even though I'm a little bit nervous about it. So here's what we're trying to reflect on this episode is how can more experienced Latinas support and lead millennials and Gen Z Latinas or Latinos? What practical steps can be taken to create a more inclusive workplace? And how can the more experienced generation lead the younger generation who are trying to make strides towards a space in the corporate world?
That's an excellent question. And I get this question asked a lot, especially on the conference I go to, because as a Gen Z, right, like a lot of people want to know how can we support. So some of the things that people can do, number one, become a sponsor. So a lot of the times, Gen Zs and like early career professionals, women in the workforce, don't necessarily know the best ways to do certain things, how to be professional, how to write an email, etc. And a lot of more experienced people do have this knowledge. And so if you identify someone at your company or in your community that you know that need the help and you have the bandwidth at the time, offer to sponsor them, offer to guide them through, because one person that you can impact, that's a whole legacy of other people, because that one person can help others and others, and it just becomes like that networking cycle, right? Where it's like we help someone to help someone else to help someone else, and you don't have to help the entire world, but if you help one person at least, then you're helping many other people. Like I know like the people that I've helped in the past, they've been able to help others now, and they're in the positions now to help others. And so I like to call this kind of like leaders that create other leaders. And so if you are in a position of power, if you're in a position that you can help others too, and number two goes back to the position of power. If you're in a position of power at your company or in the board or whatever you're in, and you have your voice, use it. So what I mean by that is you have the opportunity to open others for other Latinas, for other women to sit at the same table that you're sitting in. So advocate for that. And number two, if you are in the position to raise your voice for certain things that shouldn't be in one way or another, or if you have your voice to create or incentivize programs that help early careers at your company, raise your voice and make it happen. So those are like maybe seems like smaller things that people can do, but they actually mean and can impact so much, right? And this is just like talking about like if you're at your company, but let's say even outside of your company, right? So if you have the opportunity to join a nonprofit or whatever the case may be, to donate your time to volunteer for the women and the early career professionals that need the help, do it. At the end of the day, it won't take that much from you, but it'll mean so much for the person that you're helping.
100%. Thank you so much for your insights. So since this is a bonus episode and all, I like to take a little bit of time to have a little fun with some of these rapid fires. And one of the things that I wanted to change up is the self-care. So I want to do a little bit of a rapid fire on the self-care as well. So let me know if you're ready, and we'll start a couple of questions.
I'm ready.
All right. So do you take out or do you do home cooked meals?
Home cooked meals.
Me too. Physical books or ebooks?
Physical books.
Yeah, it's nice.
Nice.
Turning of the page.
Yes.
What about workouts? Gym or park?
Gym.
Me too. I have a home gym. What about monies or petties?
Both.
Me too. You got to do the whole thing.
Both. Yeah.
What about what's your favorite self-care tip or trick? What is it that you do that really helps you?
So I have two. Number one, I have a little board in my room that I call it positive affirmations. So every day I either write down and put on a notepad, or I read, a positive affirmation from the day before. And I do the same thing with I have an Apple Watch, and I have an app called I Am. So the I Am app sends you positive affirmations to your phone. You can put the settings to like whatever you want. But I got one the other day that was like, Stephanie's such a wonderful person.
Oh,
And
you are.
it meant the word to me, because sometimes we don't hear that often, and you just kind of get all that positive affirmation to yourself, and that's important. That's self-care, right? And so that's sort of the two things when it comes to positive affirmations. The other thing is take 5 minutes of my first day, and like when I wake up, and just do my skincare routine. So like I use a lot of like skincare products, just to kind of like, that's the one thing I do for myself, and I feel good about it, because then that's something that I do outside of like the crazy life that we live. So those are like three things actually that I would recommend.
It's super important to moisturize, especially in the winter.
Mhm.
And my wife also gets the self affirmation, so I gotta turn that on my own, because it seems to work. So thank you for that. Stephanie, I want to get to know you a little bit more outside of what you do. Of course, your career is impressive, but can you share some of your passions or recent obsessions outside of your career? Could be anything from watching bad movies on purpose, cooking, collecting rubber ducks. Some people do that. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I actually so I like reading a lot of different books. These books are from fiction to like romance and things like that. It's funny because a lot of them I read them in Spanish. And then some of them have movies in English. So then I would read the book in Spanish, I would watch the movie in English. But kind of like, it's a little silly of me, but it's just kind of, it reminds me of my background, my home country, like reading in Spanish. Like I grew up in Spanish. I went to high school in Spanish. It was not until like 7 years ago that I came to the US. So for me, like reading Spanish like 1 hour a day just kind of reminds me of like keep practicing Spanish, never forget where you come from. And so that's like my, aside from my self-care, it's also like something I like to do on my free time.
I love it. I don't read it in Spanish enough, and sometimes I forget. I go to Miami, and then I'm like, "Oh, I got a code switch. I don't know what to do." So yeah, reading in Spanish is a great thing to do. So I know Women's History Month just ended, but this is one of the things that I wanted to learn from you is if you had the chance to dine with an influential Latina from history, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Influential Latina, does it has to be like from anything? It could be from whatever, like anything.
Anyone who inspires you, anyone you look up to, anyone who has been on your radar that you wish to just pick their brain.
Yeah. Oh man, there's a lot of them. I'm trying to see like who do I choose?
You could do a dinner party. Since this is bonus, let's go all out.
Okay. I have a couple people. Well, I guess I mentioned Mary in the past, and like I love what Mary has done, like to contribute to the community.
Mary?
Mary Rodriguez.
Okay,
Um,
Mary Rodriguez.
yes, I also would like. So I have someone who is pretty young, but she has demonstrated that she advocate and like she's doing her thing. Her name is Jenna Ortega. She actually play um as Wednesday in the Adams movie
Oh my
that was.
God, I love her.
Me too.
I love her.
I would love to just have dinner with her and just kind of like talk about anything and everything. I think like she's
Yes.
pretty young and she's already like putting our Latino faces out there in Hollywood and all these places. So, you know, I kind of I like to say like I like to follow also like early careers like Latina women that are like killing it, that are like empowering because I want more and more and more of us to be, in those spaces. And so that's why like Jenna, you're doing awesome. I look at myself too, like when I like jump on those like conferences or whatever the case may be, like I want the younger generation to like look up and say, oh, I want to have dinner with Stephanie one day.
Oh yeah, I would like to have dinner with you too.
So I think that I would love to have with them too, because to get both perspectives, from like someone who's already experienced, but then someone like Jenna who like is recent in her career but still like doing a lot, for like for the community, just by representing, representing like that matters. Representation matters, trust me.
100%. So yes, one day I would like to have dinner party with all of these amazing women from history, along with all the women that I've interviewed, because I feel like that would be quite the party.
Yeah.
Lastly, Stephanie, I want to ask you what's next for Max Up? What are your future plans, goals, or how can people find you if they want to work with you or take one of your courses?
Yes. So people can find me as Stephanie Nuesi and like Max Up us on the screen here in all social media platforms. And then when it comes to the future, I recently launched a course about how to get brand deals. So like a lot of the times we've seen a lot of like people creating content and saying like they're monetizing on it, or like they're working with this really nice brands and whatnot, and I think like we've seen that with like really famous people. I'll give an example, like when we talk about like Kylie Jenner, or like the Kardashians, or like these people that like work with brands and they get paid a lot. But then my question is, why can't we? Right, like I always say, like you don't have to have a million followers to make it happen, right? And I kind of did that when I started working with brands last year. I don't have a million followers, but like it does work, and a lot of people just don't know about it. So my
Mhm.
future is to teach people the right ways of going about this, because we need more representation. We need more Latinas, we need more women creating content. We need, more of us like sharing the knowledge of what we learned so far. And so the future goal for me is, now that I've become an instructor, because it's kind of one of my passions, right? I like to teach, I speak at conferences, but now I'm doing it on a different series of courses that I'll be launching in the next few months and years, to teach people several different things, from career to
Nice.
resumes to everything pretty much, because I feel like sometimes knowledge is lost when you do like events that are live, because not everyone gets to watch it. But if you have something that people can always go back to, and that's kind of like the value of education, right? Like something that people can always go back to. That's what I want to create, because I'm a strong believer of the power and the value of education.
I'm with you there, and I will take your courses. So I will, follow up with the links, and I will put the links on the Discord channel for everyone to be able to have it. And I just want to thank you, Stephanie, for making the time to come on. I know that you are a person who is very busy, as all of the other interviewees that I've had, and I just appreciate your time so much, and I appreciate everyone else's time for tuning in this month. Here at NextGen, we aim to recognize and celebrate rising Latinos and Latina leaders every day, just like Stephanie Nuesi, just like Victoria Jen, just like Karina Mora. And this month we have just such a great honor to featuring some of these amazing and incredible emerging Latinas who are already making their mark and making their in their perspective field, and having such big goals in sight. I appreciate your time. For everyone watching, if you missed our last interviews, don't worry, we have them all on Hispanic Executives YouTube channel. Women's History Month may be ending, but women like Stephanie Nuesi are making history every day, and they continue to make content and give out that knowledge that they've acquired from their trial and error. So we will continue highlighting them and highlighting all of the emerging Latinos and Latinas in our channel. So keep an eye out for our content. Also, remember, we have a Discord server, so to continue the conversation. So join there. We will put Stephanie Nuesi's courses there, and everyone else's are there already. So join there so you can get connections, continue the conversation, and have a great week. Thanks so much, Stephanie.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.